Thank you very much for coming to this round table about design management. This is the graduation show 2024. And we understand design management in the context of this program as design managers fosters transformations, and these transformations take place in organizations and communities. And I think that your theses are very good examples of what design managers do to transform situations in these organizations and communities. So can you give me an overview of what you did in that thesis to transform a reality?
I could start just kind of giving an overview of what my thesis focused on. And essentially it focused on microfiber pollution, specifically in understanding how to bridge people together in order to foster understanding and, most importantly, respect towards the issue.
Okay, good.
I focused on the sustainability integration and the barriers of sustainability integration in small and medium-sized businesses in Switzerland. And I looked at what are the causes that SMEs in Switzerland don't integrate sustainability more than they do now, because research revealed that the general integration of ecological sustainability into business practice is still quite poor. And I looked at why that is and what one could do about it or try to do about it.
So I looked at the challenges that couples have with an unfulfilled desire for a child, and especially also how their social environment, so family and friends, support them during their journey, and how this support can be enhanced.
So I looked at the automotive mobility system in Switzerland, and I tried to make the existing model of car subscriptions more sustainable by trying to implement or fostering or spotting opportunities to implement peer-to-peer mechanisms. And I think a big thinking behind this whole idea was to make a more sustainable option available to a new group of people that didn't have it in the first place.
I explored patient involvement in drug authorities and how they involve people and how perspectives can shape then the drug processes. I explored different patient organizations and members of such a working group where patient involvement is being performed. I learned a lot about different perspectives and then bringing clarity into different views.
And my thesis explored how to improve the integration and inclusion of international students at hslu here at the school. And so I explored all the stories and challenges and successes of both international students and also faculty members and how they handle and how they work with that situation.
Good. And how do you go about approaching your thesis?
For me, it was mostly doing interviews and talking to people, talking to students, also talking to Swiss students, talking to different members of faculty and hearing what their story is, because everyone was very different in their process or what they work with. So it was mostly talking to people.
For me, it was also talking to people, exchanging, or not exchanging, but learning from them, and simulating also meetings where I couldn't attend. So I did that with cultural probes or a workshop to bring as many perspectives in as possible.
For me as well, like speaking to people was the most important part, of course. On one hand, it was very interesting because I talked to two industry experts from SPB and mobility. So it's really interesting to hear like the expert voices on the topic. And on the other hand, of course, I held quite a lot of like unstructured interviews and the focus group. And for me, it was really important to kind of get an unbiased voice of people. So without a lot of preparation, they went into this unstructured interview and as such gave unbiased answers.
I think I can add on to what everyone said. The talking and understanding of the situation of the people that are already involved was very important. Also through interviews for me with couples, but also with people that supported those couples, and even with people that could technically in the future be someone that supports. So to understand how the knowledge level maybe is with someone that could go into that situation in a few years or so.
Yeah, I had to start with literature research and secondary research just to put myself in the position to understand what the topic of sustainability in business or ecological sustainability is in general, to know what the people are saying I'm going to talk to afterwards. And then I also talked with small business owners, trying to really understand their reality and the barriers they are facing. As well, just talking to people a lot.
I also started with literature review. It was really important to kind of figure out what's out there, what's being done, in order to then go into the interviews, which were also really important. But before I did any of that, I also found it helped a lot to have like a goal to why I wanted to look into a specific area or why I wanted to speak to a specific person, just to kind of see what I wanted to get out of it first.
Good. And what are the main findings that you have? And I perhaps we can talk about more learning so we don't go into research jargon. What are the learnings that came up from the process that you engaged in?
I think for me, like the most important learning was how important conversations are with people, because I think that's where I got the most from my research, but also just to learn about what is people understand, what their approaches are, because it also really shifted my research as well.
I think for me it was that realizing that there is already a lot of stuff out there, and there are a lot of people highly engaged with this topic. But in the case of the people or the business owners I talk to, like the disconnect between the academic research and the tools and approaches that are out there and the failing to connect with the people affected or who could need them. So I think like this, that there's this missing link between approaches and knowledge that is out there and the people who could use it but don't know how to access it, or
I think I definitely realized how individual the stories every couple and also person goes through, and this also then created a challenge of how can I design something that fits to every individual story, which was very interesting challenge that also created a lot of learning for me.
Yeah, for me, I guess it was. For me it was that you should be open to be surprised, because for me, I personally had somewhat of a bias. I mean, it's very topic related. I had somewhat of a bias against like car sharing and the likes. I didn't see the need or why it was a good thing. But in the end, when I started engaging with it, also talking with people about it and thinking about more use cases, I suddenly started to realize how big the impact could be and how viable of a mobility solution it is. So it's really interesting.
For me, when I engaged with the topic of patient involvement, I really realized also how broad terminology is being used, and that one has to be very specific in the words that you choose in research or in engaging with the people. And also what was very interesting, or what I learned, was that there can be somehow a common understanding, or it seems that there is a common understanding, but how how does really everybody see that purpose of, let's say, a working group? So yeah, so the complexity of the topics.
For me, I can relate to Enea. You know, there's a lot already happening in the topic. There's a lot of people really involved and really engaged with improving the situation. But what I also noticed was that there are a lot of reactionary measures or reactionary responses, you know, and even for me, it was tempting to see a challenge and directly try to solve that exact challenge. I think something I learned was to not stop there and try to look. I really had to look deeper at what was causing those symptoms in the system and try to see, you know, how can we get to that root instead of reacting to what's on the surface.
Nice. So all of you share very nice things, and I took note of one aspect of each of you. And so what I propose now is that I take one, for example, Enea says the importance of conversations, and we discuss. And if you feel like saying something, that's okay. So not each of you need to say something about it. The importance of conversation, I think that's something that I thought about capturing, because in particularly design managers can foster those conversations. So what is that we bring at the table, or what is that we bring in the context of a project or a transformation that can help engage people in conversation and design a conversational space that will result in learning?
I think for me, in my situation, one aspect of that was being somebody that can go in between, you know, these bubbles of these spaces. And for me, even though I was a student, an international student, I kind of acted as someone who could talk to students and be on their level, but also reach out to faculty and talk to them about their experiences. And I think it's important to, as a design manager, be that person who can go in between and also facilitate those conversations between those people.
I can kind of add on to that. I had like a similar idea to Sylvan, because I think also it's about speaking the different languages that different people speak and understanding the different perspectives and their backgrounds and how to kind of approach the conversations in a respectful way for their experiences.
For me, it was very helpful to use tools such as like visual explanations, where when there is a tool or a visual, then people can express maybe their point of view better, or not even better, but then it helps them to express themselves. That's what I want to say. And I think it's something that we also talked about in the program a lot, about designing the situation or designing the space. Yeah. So it goes from how do you invite the people, what information do you give them. I really realized that depending on how much information I provide to the people that I would like to interview or that I would like to approach for a cultural probe or a workshop, they are less open or more open. And
I think it is also important to start conversations, or to make conversations happen, to just maybe come into that from that outside perspective, or that in between as Sylvan described, and just come in and ask questions. That can be very hard questions, or very simple questions, or questions that seem simple, but maybe someone that's very into a situation or a topic never really asked or questioned that aspect. And I think that always helps, maybe also to help the people reflect in the conversations.
Yeah. The idea of the in-between is coming, and it also relates to something, Noah, you were the one that said the importance of conversations. And Enea says there is a lot of stuff, but there is a missing link. And so we go back to that in-between. Is, from your perspective, part of the design manager role to understand what is in there, and how do we go about creating those links? What are we linking? What were you were linking in your thesis? What were you linking?
Maybe I can say something that also connects to the first question, because I think in the conversation part, in my experience, the people already have a lot of knowledge that they don't know they have, or are not confident enough to share. And I think in my process, a big part was to try to foster or to help people explore their own knowledge, what they already have in an organization, for instance, that someone who has like sort of a role maybe on the fringes of the organization knows a lot about this part and is sort of an expert there, but he probably just feels like a person on the fringe. But that being on the fringe also comes with a special knowledge and a perspective that can be really enhancing to understanding the whole situation, has to be understood first in order to be useful for a conversation. And I think this can also be a link, like connecting the existing knowledge to create something new. That's,
Good. Does it? Someone else want to say something? Does it relate? I think, Natascha, you said that you were surprised about how individual was a story. So when we have, sometimes we have individual stories and sometimes we have collective story. So is that individual story something also that is connected? And I'm doing this with a needle, and Natascha, in your case, you were knitting. So is that connection something that the design managers do?
I think definitely, maybe not always in my situation, in my project, but I think in also other projects, I feel like it is definitely, as a design manager, like your role to help people, connect to each other and share your individual stories and create a story that that you share together. Well, actually, I think that is very, very much something that happened in my thesis. Now saying it out loud, it's really like sharing your challenges and make sure that someone else is listening to you. So that also helps to like reduce those challenges when you talk about it. And I definitely see that as one role of a design manager.
Something that was also mentioned was that people have a lot of knowledge, right? So we were listening or making that knowledge appear. We are connecting that knowledge. Something that happened in your thesis, I don't know, you might remember, is that many times you were helping because you were making people aware of that knowledge. Aware for themselves or aware as a collective. You were saying, this is what's going on. So you were making a process or you were making a situation visible or more tangible. Do you feel that? Is that my perspective as?
I feel like during the conversations that I had, it's like lots of those people usually didn't have a car, or they already had one, but they never tried car sharing, or few of them ever tried it. And I think just by making them aware of it, or also by showing them all the benefits that it brings, kind of made them aware, okay, it might be a good thing, and made them think about about their own actions, right? So I guess it's very much about making something present to other people.
Nice. And something else I was mentioning is that sometimes we people, not just design managers, we react, right? Something happened and we go like reaction mode. Do you think that we also, perhaps through conversations, create a space for reflection, a space for slowing down, but not necessarily reducing speed, because we need to move at speed, but a space for reflection, if you want, in the sense of Don John, where we can think or reflect or take some time before reacting?
I feel like this happened in this very interview with Natascha being made aware of a learning she had. So I guess that's very much the case, yes.
Why do you think we have a tendency to react or fix and sometimes we need I don't know, to do the opposite, but we need a space in Holger's sense.
I think something for me that I observed with the reactionary is the not being happy with the discomfort, you know, feeling something that you want to be changed or you want to be different and not wanting to sit in that uncomfortable feeling and wanting to do something to alleviate that, you know, even if in the long term that situation isn't improved. And I could really see that the space to reflect is difficult when you're in a state of discomfort or fear even.
I think that, what do I want to say? Yeah, through reflection and thinking or talking, there is nothing tangible connected to it. So maybe it's also like this wanting to speed all the time and wanting to achieve something might be connected to the fact that, yeah, through a conversation, maybe people are, it's a conversation, and what can we do by talking about it, or what can we do by reflecting about it? And I think in that case, then design management can also come in, because we show through other tools or through any type of design intervention, we show what can be done through the conversation and through the reflection, because it doesn't stay with just the conversation. Yeah.
What was special, or what is special about your thesis? Or what is one aspect that you would like to share? Like what is now a month after you submitted the document, a week after the presentation, that you take some space and you say, like, this is something very special in my thesis?
Well, I personally like it, though the jury didn't like it so much, or they said that it could be better. I very much like it that it's very much rooted in reality. Like, it's not a broad view on something. It's not something that's possible in 10 years if A, B, and C follow. It's possible today if we start it. And that's what I like about it.
I think I can also add to that, because I think my, the conclusion of my thesis is quite hands-on and practical, and something that already made sort of an impact, even if it's just really, really small. But I think for the SME that participated in the testing and the development of the intervention, it was already an insight that was generated for them, and probably also having some lasting effects in the organization.
I think for me, it's similar to it, that I could already see like a little impact, that in the last few weeks and months even, people around me kept sharing me media posts or something about the topic and told me about maybe stories that they heard. So that was very interesting to see, because the goal was, or is also, of my thesis to spread the awareness about the challenges. And I could see how this already took over at a few people, that they started thinking about it or sharing it with me, and that was very interesting to see.
Why not?
Yeah. I think mine kind of goes back to the point that I brought up, that in the end, you know, I came up with some reactionary ideas, but in the end, I really committed to something that was on a deeper level. I wasn't satisfied with something that was just a surface level approach. And so I'm happy with that. I think something else, maybe not that it's special, but something that I'm proud of is that because of engaging in the topic with students and faculty, I've had both students and faculty reach out to me to continue being involved in the topic. And that feels nice, that it's not just a little vacuum of a project, but it's really part of something.
So some of your projects are alive. Keep on being alive after the deadlines have finished and passed and all that. Because you keep on receiving stories, you choose who people are engaged, or you already notice some shift. So you gave birth to projects that we keep on living. Nice. How does it feel?
Good.
Good. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.